have to talk about the Democratic Party, and not just the party itself, but also the influencers who do stuff in response to it and, well, because of it. And I'm not saying that just because I don't get paid enough by them. I don't get paid anything by them at all. But Taylor Lorenz has done a deep dive into a lot of the money that's been shuffling around the party, and I really should have covered this when the news broke, but I didn't have a chance to because, well, the Iowa trip. I am in Iowa right now trying to help out a friend, and I'm not really able to do a whole lot on my own schedule right now, so I'm having to do what I can. That said, before we get into that, I want to celebrate all of you. So, for those of you who have submitted fan art over the years, this is the most recent one that I have on my docket. This is from Hazel, said, had a silly idea during a stream, so I present, really? Right in front of my Blizzy? That is adorable. I love that Blizzy's just sitting there being a dude. And it's the same Blizzy that's currently sitting under the door next to the chat right now. So you know what? As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, we got some stuff to cover, and I'm excited because holy shit. Just look at it. Isn't it glorious? Isn't it great? The titling is A Dark Money Group is Secretly Funding High-Profile Democratic Influencers. So, in a private group chat in June, dozens of Democratic political influencers discussed whether to take advantage of an enticing opportunity. They were being offered $8,000 per month to take part in a secretive program aimed at bolstering Democratic messaging on the internet. But the contract sent to them from Chorus, the nonprofit arm of a liberal influencer marketing program, came with some strings. Among other issues, it mandated extensive secrecy about disclosing their payments and had restrictions on what sort of political content the creators could produce. So let me get this straight. Political influencers who, like me, should basically be able to speak our minds. If we see shit, we should be able to call shit out as shit. And if we see something that's great, we should be able to call it out as such. But once money starts flowing in, they want people to zip their lips about certain things. Now, what are those things? Who knows? We're going to dig into it and see what we can find. Also, being mandated secrecy about payments, that gets to me personally. On the one hand, there's a standard in the US for people not really disclosing how much they make, where their money comes from, all this other shit. It stems from the habits that we were taught as kids not to disclose, well, information about payments. Our parents weren't supposed to disclose how much money they made to us. Our coworkers were not supposed to disclose how much money they make to us, and we weren't supposed to disclose how much we make to them. And several jobs have tried to enforce this because, well, discussing pay discrepancies is the first step towards unionizing. So it's really weird to me to see the ostensibly pro-union, pro-worker, pro-disclosing of things, pro-transparency group like the Democratic Party basically deciding that they are going to do the same things that the Koch brothers and other dark money groups have been doing for years. Now, let me explain what $8,000 a month looks like to an influencer. I don't make $8,000 a month. I don't. I make 700-ish from Twitch. I make 1,000-ish if I'm lucky from YouTube. Far less right now because numbers are not looking great. And I can make 2,000-ish on Patreon. Most of that disappears into bills, but that's about what I'd be looking at. So if I were offered this, do you know how tempting that would be? It would be very, very hard because I'm not really good at tying my tongue. I'm not good at not speaking my mind. I'm kind of an asshole. But goddamn, that is more than twice what I make a month. That's insane to me. That is an insane amount of money to me. Miralana says, even worse, high-end left-wingers selling out for $8,000 a month. High-end right-wingers get $100,000 an episode to be sketchy. That's the other thing that's weird. So, like, I'm on the very, very low end of streamers. Like, in terms of streamers that do this full time, I'm on the low end. I may be on the high end of like all streamers who have ever streamed ever, but bear in mind, like 99% of streamers stream to a party of 2 or 3 people at maximum. So it's not very hard to be in the top 1% of that particular echelon. And then once you get into the streamers who make enough to survive, I am in the lowest bracket there because, well, the amount I make on a stream, like I said, it's like $700 a month. So $8,000 a month. It's a life-changing amount of money for me, but it's not really a life-changing amount of money for, Tyler Cohen, Hassan Piker. It's not a life-changing amount of money for them. They're large voices with big platforms who are doing far better than people like me and other lefty influencers that are kind of just around here. So I don't know what decision I would make when somebody says, hey, all of your financial problems can disappear overnight if we hand you that money. But of course, it's not people at my level who are getting handed that paycheck. It's people who are already making enough money to survive that are getting that paycheck. And that's even weirder because you would think that people who are making more than enough money to survive, more than enough money to do what they need to do, you would expect that they would be more insulated from stuff like this. That's what you would expect. But that's not really what happens. This weird thing happens as you start getting more and more money, you start making yourself a gilded cage. And then suddenly, the more money you have, the more money you need. It's a really terrible cycle that we've got like a billion movies and books that have gone into for people. Professor Tessa says, where do I sign up for this $8K a month? Well, first of all, you have to be a big and popular streamer. And I'm not that. You're not that. Most people I know aren't that. It's the people who have already made it are the ones being offered these lucrative numbers. It's not for people who need that money. Jesus Christ. Anyway, in their group chat, influencers debated the details. Should we send a joint email with all of our email addresses, or are we just going to send things separately and hope they change everything for everyone? Lorenzo, who is a non-binary creator in Columbus, Ohio, with over 804,000 TikTok followers, asked the group. Some joked about the collective bargaining. Any Newsies fans here? Eliza Orland's a public defender and reality TV star known for her appearances on Survivor, posted in the group. We're a union just by saying so. Look, these are the types of people who are being offered these deals. So there's 2 parts to this. For one, that's a very small amount of money for people of that size. So it's kind of a slap to the face to then be handed a whole bunch of strings and say, like, no, you can't talk about issues we don't want you talking about because we're handing you this money. Jesus fucking Christ. The influencers in this chat collectively had at least 13 million followers across social platforms. They represented some of the most well-known voices online posting in support of Democrats, and they're key to wherever the party moves next. But ultimately, the group didn't make much progress. Reading through the revised chorus contract, like you win some, you lose some, a reproductive justice influencer named Pari, who posts under the handle of Women in America, responded later in the thread, saying, I also think there's at least 4 other things that should change, but the vibe I got from their email was that there would be minimal, if any, changes. Then another one of the influencers, Aaron Parnas, said, I don't feel strongly about pushing, to be honest. He's a Gen Z influencer who's been called the Gen Z Walter Cronkite and has been lauded in legacy media outlets. He said, they aren't going to modify it anymore. Seems like a take it or leave it. Pari says, I believe we are in stage 5, acceptance. And then creators beginning signing on to the deal. Again, remember, $8,000 a month, that is a life-changing amount of money. It is very hard for me. It is very hard for me to argue with taking that money if you feel you need it. It's very hard for me to argue with that. At the same time, I want to know what that agreement looked like. I want to know what that contract looks like. For years, Democrats have struggled to work with influencers. In 2024, President Joe Biden's White House snubbed several prominent content creators after they lightly criticized the administration over its policies on climate change, COVID, Gaza, and the TikTok ban. Content creators who challenged Kamala Harris, including Hassan Piker, a well-known influencer on the left, were similarly unwelcome at campaign events. After the Democrats lost in November, they faced a reckoning. It was clear that the party had failed to successfully navigate the new media landscape. While Republicans had spent decades building a powerful and robust independent media infrastructure, maximizing controversy to drive attention and maintaining tight relationships with creators despite their disagreements with Trump, the Democrats have largely relied on outdated strategies and traditional media to get their message out. So I'm going to pause there for a sec and say, yeah, that's kind of been a problem for a bit. I remember when I was helping to work on the Jamal Bowman campaign up in New York. And I say helping to work on, but realistically, I was just a canvasser with a camera behind me. That was my job. My job was be on camera with Vosh. That was my job. But I remember going to work on that stuff and hearing the complaints from other influencers around me who were more involved with progressive victory. Some of them saying, hey, one of the biggest struggles that we've had is to try to convince Democrats about the utility of influencers, about how much work can be done on the ground if you just let influencers help you. The fact of the matter is, many of us have fairly large audiences. Now, my audience is still fairly small, but I love each and every one of you, and I'm thankful you're fucking here. But many of us have fairly large audiences, and unlike CNN, which has an audience that is largely aging out, unlike newspapers, which have audiences that have already aged out, influencer marketing is here to stay for the foreseeable future. People who do shorts on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, people who are constantly streaming on Twitch and Kick, people who are in the phones of your average everyday Gen Z or teen. That's what influencers are. That's what they do. When you grow up, CNN is the news. But someone like Vosh, for instance, is, oh, it's Vosh. You know the person by name. He's a person with opinions that you either trust or heavily dislike, but you have an opinion on him as a person. Whereas when you have large news agencies, not all the time do large names stand out. You do sometimes get your Jesse Waters, you do sometimes get your Tucker Carlsons. You do sometimes get your names that stand out and become household names, but generally speaking, influencers are one-man teams, one-man armies. And as a result, you get a more parasocial relationship with that person versus whatever talking head is on the other end of the TV. Steigander has posted that somebody did go over the contract. Let me take a look here. So Steigander, this feels like it is very useful, but this is also a lot of information all at once. Is there a TLDR? Is there something in regards to this, given the fact that I'm live at the moment right now? Because that's a lot. This is a transcript of a whole podcast episode. I do appreciate it, though. This can come in handy very, very well. In the meantime, now Democrats hope that the secretive chorus creator incubator program, funded by a powerful liberal dark money group called the 1630 Fund, might tip the scales. The program kicked off last month, and creators involved were told by Chorus that over 90 influencers were set to take part. Creators told Wired that the contract stipulated they would be kicked out and essentially cut off financially if they even so much as acknowledged that they were part of the program. Some creators also raised concerns about a slew of restrictive clauses in the contract. Okay, that's really alarming. But let's go ahead and see here. Influencers included in communication about the program, and in some cases, an onboarding session for those receiving payments from the 1630 Fund, including Olivia Juliana, the centrist Gen Z influencer who spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Is this just going to be a lot of names? Loren Pietra, a former Playboy executive turned political influencer who hosts a podcast for Occupy Democrats. Barrett Adair, a content creator who runs an American Girl doll themed pro-DNC meme account. Susan Lambert, who has called herself a Regina George liberal. Ariel Fodor, an education creator with 1.4 million followers on TikTok. Yeah, it's just a bunch of names. I'm not going over all the names. You can pause and read if you want to. Oh, but David Pakman. David Pakman was one of the ones who was signed on. David Pakman, who hosts an independent progressive show on YouTube covering news and politics. David Pakman is one of the larger names in the YouTube politics space. Also, as far as I know, he's not somebody who needs this money. But, again, frustrations. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired that creators signed, the influencers are not allowed to disclose their relationship with Chorus or the 1630 Fund, or functionally, that they're being paid at all. Dozens of liberal influencers are believed to have been approached by Chorus about the 1630 Fund financing opportunity this spring. They were told that Chorus appreciated the work that they were doing online and were asked if they'd be interested in being part of the first cohort of a new program that Chorus was running to help expand their reach and impact. So I just have to wonder, why no transparency? Why is transparency bad here? That's strange. Also, Will says, Will Shar, it says independent quotation marks. Yeah, it's not so independent when you have a sponsor paying well above a living wage for you to do your reporting. This program feels weird. It feels skeevy to me. It feels like something that, yes, should happen, but this form, it looks like they're just doing what the right wing has been doing, but they've been doing this mostly out in the open. The Koch brothers, the Heritage Foundation, like, these are well-known names and groups, and they are the ones who are largely funding so many of the other influencers that are doing shit. Like, the weird thing that we found with right-wing influencers wasn't that they were being paid by dark money. The weird thing was that we found out the dark money was originating in fucking Russia. Oh, and by the way, the amount of money that they were paying influencers was not in the handful of thousands. They were paying in the millions. Like, was it Tim Pool? Or was it, what's her face? I can't remember her name, but there was the number 10 million was floated for like one of the creators, and I can't remember who it was, but it's just skeezy as hell. But following the initial outreach, many creators expressed concern about some of the stipulations. According to copies of the contract viewed by Wired, creators of the program must funnel all bookings with lawmakers and political leaders through Chorus. Creators also have to loop Chorus in on any independently organized engagements with government officials and political leaders. Why the hell should you have the right to that? So like, when I went to the Douglas County Democrats and I just started interviewing people there, that was the thing that I did wholly independently. And if somebody tried to stop me on doing that, not the Democrats themselves in the area stopping me, but like somebody else going, no, I handed you a little bit of money, so you're not allowed to go do that. Fuck you and fuck off. Fuck you and fuck off. Both of those things at once. One of the creators said, if I want to work with another politician, I have to fully collaborate with them. If I get Zoran and he wants to do an interview with me, I don't want to give that to them. Creators of the program are not allowed to use any funds or resources that they receive as part of the program to make content that supports or opposes any political candidate or campaign without express authorization from Chorus in advance and in writing per the contract. Okay, so those are the same rules that apply for local advocacy. That's not the word. It's not local advocacy groups. But like local Democratic groups are not able to support individual candidates. That is a restriction that the Paulding County Democrats have. That is a restriction the Cobb County Democrats have. That is a restriction all the Democratic groups that I have talked to have had. They can suggest that you vote for the Democratic candidate, but if there are multiple Democratic candidates, they cannot endorse one of them. They can only show you the information from them, period. Tal says, this sounds like the payment processor censoring games. Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. So, creators in the program are not allowed to use any funds or resources they receive to make any content that supports or opposes any political candidate. The contracts reviewed by Wired prohibit standard partnership disclosures, declaring that creators will not publicize their relationship with Chorus or tell others that they're members of the program without Chorus's prior consent. They also forbid creators from disclosing the identity of any funder, and give Chorus the ability to force creators to remove or correct content based solely on the organization's discretion if that content was made at a Chorus organized event. They said there are some real great advantages to housing this program in a non-profit. Graham Wilson, a lawmaker working with Chorus, said to creators in a Zoom call reviewed by Wired. It gives us the ability to raise money from donors. It also, with this structure, it avoids a lot of public disclosure or public disclaimers. You know, paid for by blah, 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 blah that you see in political ads. They said, we don't need to deal with any of that. Your names aren't showing up on, like, reports filed with the FEC. Okay, the Federal Election Commission also declined to comment on this. The goal of Chorus, according to a fundraising deck obtained by Wired, is to build a new infrastructure to fund independent progressive voices online at scale. The creators who joined the incubator are expected to attend regular advocacy trainings and daily messaging check-ins. These messaging check-ins are led by Cohen on rapid response days. Cohen is in Tyler Cohen? The creators also have to attend at least 2 Chorus newsroom events per month, which are events Chorus plans, often with lawmakers. So, this part I'm actually okay with. This makes sense. If you're being paid $8,000 a month, then yeah, they're gonna give you briefings on what to do. That makes sense. There's a lot of shit here I'm not okay with. This part makes sense. Elizabeth Dubios, an assistant professor at the university research chair in politics, communication, and technology at the University of Ottawa, who has researched the ways influencers are reshaping the U.S. political system, says that we are seeing influencers being pulled into these dark campaigns or shadow campaigns where the legal aspect is murky at best. Sometimes it's actually clear that influencers are being used to, for example, evade spending limits. I think we need to remember that for the democracy to survive, we do need transparency around who is paying for political messages. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I think we should have full transparency with these things. After all, they're using donor money, and when they're not using donor money, then they're trying to get people in office who are going to be using taxpayer money. Keith Edwards, a Democratic content creator who has skyrocketed to fame on YouTube since starting his channel last year, was not invited to be part of the program, but he believes that the way it was structured seems predatory. He says that he would never agree to take part in a program that was run in secret or wouldn't allow him to disclose funding. Yeah, I agree. I would rather programs like this be something that we can talk about. Like, I want to be able to tell all of you where my money comes from. Now, luckily, I'm in a position where most of my money comes from all of you, so you know where it's coming from. It says, what I don't understand is why wouldn't you just donate to creators directly who have already built something and just need to put gasoline on the fire? Democrats at least understand that the internet exists now, so that's good, but they still think influencers are just there to do a terrible direct-to-camera interview that no one watches, rather than just treating us like another form of media. The influencers offered the funding were given just days to sign the contract, which was essentially presented as a take-it-or-leave-it thing. At least one cohort was specifically told they could not have their lawyers redline it. What? What? The lawyers can't read it? That's insane. Why would you ever want to push that? That just looks predatory. If I can't have a lawyer look it over, then what the fuck is the point? Also, I'm just going to have them do it anyway without you fucking knowing. I'm sorry, but that's just what's going to happen. Jesus Christ. Eventually, the creators of the group agreed to drop the issues they had. They said, I don't think Chorus is out to screw us, Orleans, a creator who was offered $8,000 per month, said in the group chat. Some influencers for the Chorus Incubator program were offered as little as $250 per month. $250 per month for me to be shady as shit? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. This feels like a multi-level marketing. This feels like multi-channel networks all over again. Others were offered membership into the Amplifier cohort, which provides up to $8,000 per month. The 1630 Fund has emerged as a powerful funder in democratic spaces in recent years. Its website notes that issues supported by the organization include economic equity, affordable health care, climate solutions, racial justice, voter access, and other essential social charge goals. So, can I make a statement? Fuck affordable health care. Fuck affordable health care. Just Fuck affordable healthcare. Healthcare should not be affordable. Healthcare should be free. I'm sorry. That is, keeping people alive is in the best interest of a country that wants those people to be able to pay taxes. Keeping people healthy should be an investment that a country puts into its people. If we are already having to pay taxes, those taxes should pay for healthcare. Healthcare should not be affordable. Healthcare should be free. But free, as in we paid for it with our taxes. Just like schooling for K through 12 should be free. There are people who do not want it to be free, but it should be free. Okay, let's see here. The organization was funded in 2009 as a liberal response to conservative dark money groups and organized like the Koch network, and under Trump it has soared. Okay. In 2018, the 1630 Fund provided $141 million to more than 100 left-leaning causes in order to bolster Democratic support during the midterms. That's super interesting. So it did do the money. All that's changing now, it's not a new organization. All that's changing now is that it's aiming the money at content creators. Let's see here. The 1630 Fund, which is not required to disclose its contributors, had for years been a major funding source for liberal and progressive causes and groups, including those that spend in elections, says Walker Davis, a research director for the open government group Citizens for Responsible Ethics in Washington. Though their recent tax returns indicate that they have pulled back from the eye-popping sums that were spent in 2020, the organization is still on the top spending of politically oriented nonprofits in the country. So this is not a small group. This is a group that is leading the charge here. And they're doing this because they're trying to fight fire with fire. So I'm of two minds. In a world where the Koch brothers and the Heritage Foundation are able to do shit like this, then we need to be able to have these same tools on the left. On the other hand, I don't think we should live in a world where these tools exist. I don't think we should live in a world where this kind of dark money can float around. Also, I don't like the idea of, quote, independent influencers having to toe the party line. Because sometimes the party is fucking wrong. Sometimes the Democratic Party is fucking shit. Sometimes they have a terrible take on the genocide in Palestine. Sometimes they have a terrible take on what to do about trans people. Sometimes they have a terrible take on how to handle healthcare. Chorus, which is described in its contracts reviewed by Wired as a project of the 1730 Fund that handles operations for the Creative Program, launched in the November of 2024 as a nonprofit arm of Good Influence. Okay, so Chorus is recent. It's a subsidiary of the previously existing project. Okay, then there's a quote here. I've spent most of my career researching right-wing media and sounding the alarm about the collapse of our old information environments, says Eli Langford, the director of programming at Chorus. Our political systems haven't been able to figure out a real solution, and I've been really excited to see you all treading the path forward. I deeply, deeply believe that the work you all are doing is what's going to make a difference in supporting and, frankly, resuscitating our democracy. Already, creators of the program are creating content together in a new weekly series titled Good News in Politics. 6 creators of the program shared a collaborative video running through political wins. Okay, so that's cool. That's at least neat that some stuff is happening here. Again, I just feel skeezy about this. This feels super skeezy. Progressive YouTuber and former Media Matters staff, Kat, I'm very sorry I'm going to be mispronouncing this name, so I'm just going to say Kat, who's running for Congress in Illinois, was pictured on Chorus's website and included in fundraising decks without her consent. She asked that her image and name be removed and no longer used for fundraising purposes. Speffer and other content creators have accused Chorus of attempting to establish themselves as a gatekeeper to Democratic political leaders. What we need is for people to invest in independent media. That doesn't necessarily mean investing in a consultation group that is going to become a middleman for independent media. Dude, it's already difficult to get interviews and get airtime with political candidates and political runner-ups. It's already difficult to do that. We don't need more fucking red tape. Several influencers who doggedly defended Chorus throughout the controversy including Elizabeth Booker Houston, a Democratic comedian and content creator on Instagram, and Allie O'Brien, a progressive creator with more than 600,000 followers on TikTok, were involved in membership talks for the highest paid tier in Chorus's new creator incubator program. Okay. So the ones who defended Chorus the most were the ones getting paid the most by Chorus? Wow. I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked. One creator named Chesko, who goes by the Speech Prof online, applied to join the program because he's viewed it as an opportunity to get access to people that have funding or backing and actual research that I could use. And then he wasn't accepted and received an email on June 26th rejecting the application. He said, "We're planning to bring more creators into the incubator program in the near future." Well, here's my take. You can get me into that program. You can. But you need to be paying me enough, and I need to be allowed to disclose two things. One, where my money is coming from. If I'm to remain an independent content creator, I need to be allowed to say where my money is coming from. And I think a lot of other content creators would feel the same if they want to remain authentic. And speaking of remaining authentic, if I'm not allowed to say something or I have to change something in order to toe the party line, I need to be allowed to say when that happens. Period. I'll never be in a position where I don't need extra money to survive. I've made terms with that. But I never want to be in a position where I have to compromise myself and my values in order to get it. And I think that a lot of content creators that care about their own platforms are gonna feel similarly. We don't want to say no to a life-changing amount of money, but we don't want to have to sell our souls to fucking get it. The structure of the program highlights the vast differences between how Democrats and Republicans attempt to amass online influence. Republicans have spent decades building a powerful independent media ecosystem though the right-wing influencer world is far from transparent. In September 2024, a federal indictment alleged that, this is the one I was talking about, that a Russia state-sponsored network, RT, so Russia Today, was covertly providing millions of funding to Tenet Media, a company working with major right-wing influencers, including Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Lorenz Southern. That's what it was. Lorenz Southern and Tenet Media. That's where that was. I remembered that the Russian money had gone to a bunch of the right-wing influencers, but I forgot the specifics on it. But hey, there it is. Let's see here. In 2024, the National Republican Congressional Committee spent nearly $500,000 to work with Creator Grid, an influencer marketing company whose website connects Republican candidates with the internet's most powerful conservative influencers, according to an analysis of campaign finance filings from WAPO. Okay, so there's not much more. There's not much more in the article there. So what do we take away from this? Well, a couple of problems. I'm of two minds, and that's where the couple of problems come in. On the one hand, Republicans have dark money. We know this. This is like undisputed, and when we find it, we usually find that there's terrible fucking think tanks behind it, like the Russia Today stuff that came out, like when stuff came out about the Koch brothers, like when stuff's come out about the Heritage Foundation. We know that the money for their influencers comes from shitty places. I also know that we should be adopting many of their tactics in order to not only win our elections, but also fucking survive politically. But I feel like there should be a better way to adapt them than just kind of copy-pasting them wholesale, because the soulless and just like fucking destructive version that the right wing has been using, I don't think we should be using. Again, we should be adapting tactics like this, but not just taking them fucking wholesale. And there's where I come to the two minds section of this. We have to be willing to use the weapons of our enemies in order to survive. But I really feel like we should be allowed to have things like better transparency in order to make sure that when we are using those weapons, we are using them responsibly. But I do want to know what y'all think in the comment section below, because this is where my take is. I stand by that when it comes to this kind of money, it's a life-changing amount of money, and many influencers could use it for all kinds of projects that could help them out and help out our left-wing politics as a whole. But I feel like being unable to do anything other than toe the party line, being unable to push the envelope, and being unable to disclose where your money is coming from, all of those are just colossal brick walls I don't think any content creator should have to try to navigate how to scale. I feel like trying to navigate that in general compromises your integrity. Sakura says, for me, when David Pakman started threatening to sue the author of the Wired article, you mean Taylor Lorenz? Because the author of the Wired article is Taylor Lorenz. That's who David Pakman was threatening to sue. And I'm sorry, but why the fuck would you sue somebody who's literally just throwing out information? That's all they're doing. It's just throwing out information. It makes you look skeezy. It makes David Pakman look fucking skeezy as shit. Bohemian Lucy says, it's funny that one of the people involved tried to defend themselves, saying, I thought the money was coming from a shady rich guy. I didn't know it was coming from Russia. Yeah, but if you kick that can down the lane just a little bit, why does the shady rich guy want to give you money? What is the shady rich guy getting out of it? What are you doing that benefits the shady rich guy? And if you're benefiting the shady rich guy, is that helpful? I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section below when this goes live, and I will love to hear your thoughts. Like I said, I'm of two minds on this one. That said, let's move on to the next thing. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Limor Pinku, Love Bunny Games, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Aurora, Leela Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.